Today at the museum, on Test Hill,
it's 5,000cc.
That is astonishing.
a motorcycle building legend hopes to blow away the Brooklands crowds.
That's certainly going to create a stir when it goes up.
That's if it starts, of course.
In the workshop,
Someone's going to visit the museum. We're going to take them up Test Hill and round the banking.
an historic Bentley needs fixing, ready to make a vintage ambition a reality.
Waited years for this.
Yeah, we'll get round there just about.
And at the Shuttleworth collection in Bedfordshire,
So I'm going to attempt to get in the thing.
a flying war hero is taking to the skies once more.
My concern today is landing down the hill because we don't normally do it.
The busiest day in the motorbike team's calendar has come around again at Brooklands.
What's it feel like?
Hundreds of men and women on two wheels will soon be descending on the museum,
It's frustrating at times working on an old bike.
taking the chance to show off their machines.
I make motorcycle noises.
At the annual motorcycle show. The event wouldn't be possible without Brookland's dedicated volunteers.
This is your famous lockdown project then?
And one key team member
Yeah.
is retired software engineer Mark Fielder.
There we go.
The Motorcycle Day at Brooklands has been running for a few years now, and each year it's grown in size.
We'll see if we can get it running.
It's the one day in the year where the whole of the museum is given over to bikes. People bring specials, road bikes, almost any type of bike you can imagine comes along.
That sounded a bit ominous, Gareth. It's gone quiet.
Today, Mark's been invited to the home of a motorbike legend.
Some years we'll get some really special visitors. That gives an extra added edge of excitement, the anticipation of seeing something that you might not see very often.
He's hoping to help choose which bikes will be brought to Brooklands by a very special guest,
Oh, Mark, I'm glad you turned up.
Alan Milard. Alan is famous in the motorcycling world for his original, unearthly feats of engineering. And straight away, there's a wonder to behold.
The famous flying Milard. It's phenomenal.
This is Alan's handmade masterpiece, created in less than a year.
I've seen the photos and I've seen on video, but the photos and video just don't prepare you for what you're seeing in the flesh.
The most remarkable thing about the bike is its V-twin engine. Its cylinders are from a radial Pratt & Whitney aeroplane engine.
It's 5,000cc.
5,000cc, that is astonishing.
To date, he has made no fewer than 52 unique bikes.
So you've made these from
scratch.
From scratch?
The petrol tank's made from scratch, most of the frame. It's even got a three-phase alternator, so because the engine runs so slow, it only does 1,500 RPM, couldn't charge the battery.
Yeah.
So I've made a neodymium magnet alternator, so I get a really good charge. I even made the speedo to match the size of the piston in the bike.
Alan has been refurbishing and creating bikes from scratch since he was a curious 12-year-old, when armed with the Reader's Digest Book of Engines, he attached a lawnmower engine to a rally runabout and doubled its speed.
Everything I've made, I stamp up with like a date or my initials. And also when I'm stamping, it's all hopscotch. Don't have it in line, because it never was. They used to go bang, 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 isn't it?
To date, he has made no fewer
Wow.
than 52 unique bikes.
Do you know the reason that's so loud? It's a 6-volt horn running on 12 volts. Everything's on steroids.
How do you start it up?
Basically, it's very quick. I've got that,
Oh, a kickstart.
which goes straight on the end of the crankshaft. It's got a one-way clutch there. You have to stand on it like this, look. And bounce it over. Like that.
Wow.
She just bursts into life. This is a valve out of this bike. That's an inlet valve.
Wow.
And that's one out of one of my other bikes, just for comparison. And there's a valve, and here's a piston ring. See that? That's a piston ring.
That's a piston ring.
Piston ring.
So that's got to be something like near 6 inches.
5 and 7/8.
5, that's just, yeah.
I think it's got 7 piston rings in total.
This would fit in nicely with Brooklands because it's got that 1920s, 1930s atmosphere about it.
Yeah.
And it would be marvellous to see this running up Test Hill.
The only thing I've got to do is clean the spark plugs, because it runs so low revs, the plugs get sooted up.
As you'd expect from such an engineering marvel, Alan's got a hot tip for Mark.
So what I do every time when I park it, I actually clean the spark plugs up with my blowtorch to burn off the carbon, put them back in, and it's as good as gold.
That'll be interesting to see, because one of the problems we have with our vintage bikes at Brooklands is the plugs oiling up and sitting up.
Let's get one out straight away. I've got my plug spanner here. So here's the plug, and then you can clearly see it's all sooty and messy. It takes quite a while to warm it up to it's red. It doesn't do any harm at all. The metal itself can take the heat. The thing is, I haven't touched it with any metal. I'm using heat and oxygen. See, it's going white already. Give it the next squirt with the airline, that'd be dead white.
It's almost like you're restoring them to new, isn't it?
How's that?
Wow.
And the main thing is, you're not using any sandblasting.
It's a very clean process.
But whatever you do, don't drop it in water to cool it, because it'll explode in your face.
I guess you learnt that the hard way, didn't you?
I did when I was 15. You know, I dropped it in a bucket. I was all keen to pick it up, and I dropped it in a bucket of water, and the whole lot just erupted out. But the worst thing you can do is go like that with a wire brush. It's the worst thing you can do with a spark plug.
Every day's a school day.
Well, that's cooled down now. Have a look at that, look.
That could almost be a new plug.
Yeah.
The spark plugs aren't the only red-hot thing around here.
Follow me to the back.
Alan has another bike he thinks could take the Brooklands crowd by storm.
Check that out.
The second bike Alan has to show Mark is a tribute to the four-stroke six-cylinder Honda Screamers of the 1960s. His RC374.
This is a motorcycling icon, isn't it?
Six-cylinder race bike. They only made a couple of these for racing in 1967, Mike Howard. But this has got a proper six-cylinder engine, the right bore and stroke, so it sounds like the real deal, and it is so loud it blows your eardrums.
Built for the 1967 racing season, the original Honda is considered by some to be the greatest Grand Prix bike ever made.
I made all the parts of the crankshaft and then span the whole thing over on my electric drill to make sure it all worked.
Alan handmade nearly every part of this incredible machine himself, from the gear levers to the frame to the wheel hubs. And he's ended up with a stunning replica of the bike ridden by racing legend Mike Hailwood that screamed its way to victory in nearly every race it entered.
I wanted to get one of these bikes, but I couldn't afford the price. If you can find one, you're paying a region of £2 million for one.
Is there anything that you can't do?
My dad always said to me, nothing in engineering is impossible. It might be improbable, but not impossible. So I have that same ethos. I just think about it and I just find a way. I never say no.
And with Alan's amazing engineering brain, never saying no usually leads to something very special.
Does it scream like the originals?
It absolutely screams, about 135 decibels.
That's about as loud as a jet engine.
We better warn the PA guys then, haven't we?
You won't hear the PA. It hits you like a shockwave when it starts. It just goes straight to 6,000 from zero.
Alan's got an ability to build machines that look as if they've come out of a factory. And the dedication that he must put in to achieving the standard of finish that he does is awe-inspiring. Well, I think what you've got here is a complete contrast to the Flying Milard.
This is like a precision watch.
This is an amazing motorcycle jewel. I can't wait to see this at Brooklands.
Get stuck in.
You're having a laugh.
Brooklands has always been made great by the passion of the people that work there.
I'll try and lift him up. Just don't watch where I'm putting my hands.
Today that includes an 800-strong army of volunteers.
Guys, you haven't taken a pot of nuts and bolts out of here, have you? Going mad, I think.
Helping to keep the museum's motors, rotors,
Anytime the museum wants me to run the engine, I want to make sure that it runs.
and visitors happy.
Thank you.
Good morning.
John Odell is a key member of the museum's family.
I began volunteering in 2013.
He has a fervour for four wheels,
That's quite nice.
but due to his mobility requirements,
Thank you. Thank you.
he's never had the chance to fulfil one particular wish.
It's always been an ambition to experience having a ride in a real Bentley.
Luckily, Brooklands is a place where anything can happen. Vice Chair of Brooklands members and John's good friend Julian Grimwade is to be the answer to John's Bentley dream.
What we have here is a 1929 Bentley, 4.5 litre.
Julian's got wind of John's ambition, and there's nothing he likes more than sharing his passion for this incredible car.
Owning a Bentley is a treat because it's something that other people enjoy. I mean, you can take other people in it, and it gives everybody a thrill, and that's a good thing to have.
Julian has a plan to surprise John with a blast around the Brooklands track.
So the idea of giving John a ride in a vintage Bentley is really good.
The chassis and engine of Julian's Bentley began its life as a matching numbers saloon car.
Bentleys didn't come with bodies, and the bodies got replaced quite regularly on many cars.
The car's current body is a recreation of a Le Mans sports model, known as a bobtail.
It was called the bobtail because it had the spare wheel on the back. And they raced at Brooklands and they raced at Le Mans.
In 1929, just such a bobtail famously raced in the Brooklands Double 12. This epic event involved 2 days in a row of 12 hours solid racing. Unlike the 24-hour races being held at Le Mans, Brooklands' neighbours didn't want the cars racing through the night. It's easy to hear why not. John inherited his love of vintage cars from his father.
When I was really little, my father used to tell me about Brooklands, and he visited as a spectator in its heyday in the 20s and 30s.
Being an old car, the brakes are all rods and levers. There's no hydraulics like a modern car, which are quite simple. And they all have to be lined up and adjusted to make it work at its optimum.
On a vintage car like Julian's Bentley, the brakes are one of the many mechanisms that often need tweaking.
I did reline the brakes a couple of years ago, and we've done some races and a rally since then.
Julian needs to make a crucial pit stop at Brooklands to test drive the car at speed, before surprising John with a ride on the members' banking. While primarily known for its motoring origins,
all looks good, nothing loose so far.
Brooklands was historically a key destination for Britain's burgeoning aircraft industry.
Okay, I think she's free.
From having the world's first flight ticket office in 1911,
Right, so we get the wings.
to hosting one of the world's first flying schools.
I know it's a plane, but slightly different to taking off in something like that.
Brooklands is as synonymous with the history of flying as it is with the history of fast cars. During and after the First World War, Brooklands was home to companies contributing to the new aircraft technology. One of these was for the assembly and test flying for the Sopwith Aviation Company. As a top producer of aircraft during the war, there was one design that was so iconic that even Snoopy flew it in his battles against his nemesis, the Red Baron.
So here she is, the legendary Sopwith Camel.
While the Brooklands example no longer flies, the Shuttleworth collection in Bedfordshire holds an amazing exact flying replica of a Sopwith Camel fighter plane. And today, engineer Rory Cook is carrying out its annual service, ahead of it being showcased at the upcoming Vintage Air Show.
The Camel's iconic, so it has to be a favourite.
This fantastical piece of machinery turned out to be incredibly successful for the Allies, said to have shot down more enemy aircraft than any other model. But of the nearly 5,500 built, only a handful exist today.
This is one of 4 Sopwiths that are here at the moment. The Camel's probably the most famous.
As with any vehicle MOT, Rory's got a long list of checks to get through.
To say that I've worked on the Sopwith Camel is an incredible privilege. The Spitfire's great, but it's, for me personally, things like the First World War aeroplanes and the very early aeroplanes are what does it for me. Got the paperwork here that tells me what I'm supposed to do, and this will be pretty much the same for any aeroplane. And it's not just a job, it's something a bit more than that. There's a couple of extra items here that are specific to this aeroplane, which I'll have to do. Because it's a rotary engine, which means that the whole engine spins around with the propeller.
Rotary engines were smooth to run and created fast-moving airflow, efficiently keeping engines cool. The engine wasn't the pilot's main concern in dogfights, however. It was discovered early on in the war that mounting machine guns front and centre of the plane allowed the pilots to easily and effectively shoot at the enemy.
Essentially, the interrupter gear, which is a very clever piece of machinery, would stop the gun firing when the blade is in this position and only allow it to fire again when the propeller gets to there, because you don't want to shoot your propeller off. That would end your day quite quickly.
To carry out his checks, Rory will need to get inside the belly of the beast.
Hopefully, the cannon should just come off now. Aeroplanes will always try and make you out to be a liar. That's the cowling off. The next thing I'm going to do is look inside the cylinders through the spark plug holes with a boroscope kit that I've got here, which I can connect to my phone and see what's going on inside the cylinders. Other than that, it would be looking in with a torch and a mirror, which this is just easier. It's a really clever little tool.
Camera in place, Rory needs to check the integrity of the cylinder walls.
So I'm looking at the cylinder liner to make sure that there's no scores on the inside of the cylinder. Appears to be fine at the moment. There is a little bit of pressure when you're working on these aeroplanes because, yeah, somebody's life is in your hands, but it's not something that you can let worry you, I don't think, too much. I can see the top of the piston, make sure there's no damage to that, which I can see the exhaust valve there. Make sure there's no problems with that, which it appears to be fine.
The plane's design meant an incredibly tight squeeze for the pilot.
Everything is in with the first 2 metres of the aeroplane, so the pilot's feet are just here, maybe 20 centimetres behind the engine. You've got an oil tank up here, the ammunition and the guns are just here, and the pilot sits just there.
Combined with the intense cold from being exposed to the elements, flying a plane like this was not for the faint-hearted.
Pilots in the day said it was that hard to fly and to learn to fly that it would either earn you a Victoria Cross, the Red Cross, or a Wooden Cross. Thank you, chaps. So I'm going to attempt to get in the thing, which is not the most easiest of things to do. You have to be a little bit agile to do it.
After a quick check of the controls,
so everything appears to be moving nice and smoothly there.
Rory gives the Camel a clean bill of health, hopefully ready for its appearance at the Shuttleworth Vintage Air Show.
Inspection's done and she's ready to go for another year, hopefully.
Tell me when.
Julian's arrived at the Brooklands workshop in his 1929 Bentley. He's planning to take fellow volunteer John out for a surprise ride. But before that, he needs to carry out some essential maintenance.
Well, what we're going to do today is the brakes have been relined a couple of years ago, so they've bedded in now. But what will happen when that happens is that all the linkages go slightly out of line-up. So the intention is to adjust them so that they're absolutely correctly set up and the system will be at its full efficiency.
He's being assisted by some of Brookland's new generation of transport enthusiasts. Apprentices Seb, Matt and Luke.
OK lads, we've got a very important ride coming up. Someone's going to visit the museum, we're going to take them up Tess Hill and around the banking, so we want the brakes to be in top condition.
I thought it was just going to be a normal day at college. You come in, you learn what you're learning, and then all of a sudden you hear this kind of rumble out the doors and a Bentley pulls in. You think, wow, this is special.
They're part of the Heritage Skills Academy, an organisation that trains young people in heritage engineering. Today, Julian will show them his Bentley's mechanical drum brakes.
This is a Bentley 1929. Have you worked on cars this old, any of you?
Not this old, no.
Not this old. So you'll be on later stuff with hydraulics?
Mainly, yeah.
So this is going to be fairly new to you. When I bought it, I found it hadn't been used for 13 years, so it was kind of, it's in good condition, but it was a bit unloved. It needed a bit of fettling to make it right. So first of all, we're going to take the seats out, jack the car up, and then we can start to see all the bits and pieces that you're going to adjust. Okay? I really enjoyed playing with it and sorting things out and making it drive nicer and be more reliable. And that was part of the joy of learning it.
First time I've ever even touched an old Bentley, it really is something. Even the mechanics of it, they're so different to anything else I've ever worked on.
Now, if you lift out the two cushions and put them on the bench. I'm very glad I've got you to do this because it's heavy. Probably not for you. All right, now bring it across to you and away and onto the floor. Excellent. That's good.
Seats out. Time to raise the chassis.
Keep going, one more. Okay, that'll do. Right, very gently let it down. Perfect.
Now the heart of the car is exposed.
This is now the centre of action. This rod here is the one that is coming from the brake pedal.
Okay.
Pushing the brake pedal causes the brake levers to move.
If you look at that and you think, wow, that's clever, or wow, they had that in 1929. It's amazing, the engineering skill on it, you know, the skill that's been used, it's crazy.
It's not long before Julian hones in on a problem.
But what is wrong is that these levers aren't lined up. That one and that one should be more or less pointing down next to each other.
The brake levers push corresponding rods that operate the front and back brakes.
That side is nearly right. This side definitely needs adjustment.
If the levers aren't lined up, the brakes won't work to their full efficiency. It's essential that they're razor sharp when he takes John around the hairy Brooklands banking.
Now, let's work out what we need to do. So this is the rod. So what we're doing now is we're going to shorten this one to pull that rod forward while we lengthen the rear one to get the adjustment right.
By evening out the rods, Julian and the team can ensure that the pressure put across both brakes is equal.
Yeah, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. There we are. Seb is now adjusting the bottle screw for the back brake, so this arm is now going forward.
As Seb loosens the bolt under the car,
go back half a turn.
Julian is able to line up the rods with his fingers.
Okay, they're lined up. Okay, if you can just do up the nuts on the bottle screws, and that's adjusted. Right, shall we put it back together?
It was maybe a tad bit harder than I expected it to be.
If you just get the front corners located first, and then it just flops down in.
The brakes were a bit difficult to work with. They're not what I'm used to, that's for sure. It was quite hard to get your head around it.
Yeah. Okay, boys, it's all done.
It's time for John to leave for Brooklands.
Till recently, I used to drive my own car. But for one reason or another, that's not possible at the moment. So I use public transport.
His journey involves bus and train rides, taking around 2 hours each way.
It's not that difficult.
Little does he know, he'll soon be experiencing a far more exciting mode of transportation.
Okay, so when
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Nice and easy.
Today it's Brookland's annual motorcycle show.
I can't reach the ground, Michael.
Bike fanatics across the UK have gathered at the historic destination to pay homage to the old, the new, and the most innovative designs in the motorcycle world today.
It's a brilliant day today. As we speak, the bikes are starting to roll in, so we're going to see people continue to arrive throughout the morning.
Volunteer Mark is off to meet one of the day's most keenly anticipated participants, Alan Milard.
Morning, Alan.
Oh, Mark, all right, nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you again. Have you had a good journey?
Great, Joe. This is my brother Brian. He's come to help me.
Hello, Brian. Welcome to Brooklands.
So I'll drop the trailer down and you can see them.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Alan brought his flying Milard
Oh, my eyes. Am I going to miss the poles?
Yes, all right.
and his Honda Homage.
And of course, you've got the Honda.
Yeah, the RC374.
Now, I'm looking forward to hearing this because it's going to sound like the 1967 TT, isn't it?
It will. You won't not hear it, I can guarantee it. That's if it starts, of course.
Don't they look superb in the morning sunlight?
They do, don't they?
Just the sun shining off them, all the highlights.
I'm looking forward to riding the hill. It's going to be great.
Alan needs to make his way over for his first run-up test hill.
The main event at our show is the ability to take a bike up the famous Brooklands test hill. Now, some machines absolutely breeze the hill, as if it's not there. Others have to work hard.
For many, it's a nail-biting moment. First up, it's the Flying Milard.
The house is going to perform on the hill. Yeah, fly up there. Literally, in its name, the Flying Milard is going to fly up the hill.
As the hill gets higher, the incline gets steeper. But the bike's V-twin aircraft cylinders make short work of it, much to the delight of the crowd.
There's so much power in the 5,000cc V-twin, it just idled up in second gear.
Next, it's time for Alan to take his Honda Tribute up the hill. But the bike's designed to go fast on the flat, not a 1-in-4 slope.
The only thing that could go wrong is I go too fast or I don't quite get the gear change that it stalls.
Alan will need to give it his all.
The hardest bike to ride last.
Or he could end up red-faced in front of the Brooklands crowd.
This is either going to sound absolutely amazing or it's going to bog out.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be all right. It should deafen them.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, Alan.
Yeah, I think on this bike I might need it.
On a hill where confidence is key,
Hands are so sweaty.
will the pressure prove too much?
Look at all the crowd. We've got such a crowd here. When I start the engine, most people jump because it's an instantaneous 8,000 revs and about 130 dBA.
The driver ahead of Alan has pulled off. It's finally time to hear the RC374's engine.
It's loud.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of noise.
The 374 has cleared the hill effortlessly.
The reaction from everyone's been amazing. They've all been quite knowledgeable of what I do, which is really nice, and they've all been very appreciative of the bikes, which makes me feel proud. I might make a Brooklands-inspired bike with my spare V-twin engine. I've been having a quick look around here, looking at some ideas, and maybe I'll do that over the winter, I'll see.
It's the Vintage Air Show at Shuttleworth Airfield. Engineer Rory is putting some finishing touches on the collection's Sopwith Camel. the renowned model of a fighter plane that triumphed during the Great War. The plane has been thoroughly checked over by Rory to ensure it's in a safe condition. Ready to hand over to seasoned pilot Stu Goldspink.
Stu's here, John's here, and David's here. So we're all...
We'll take the Camel up to the skies to wow the crowds.
The flying skills involved in flying a Sopwith Camel are much higher than an airliner.
Stu began his flying career as a commercial pilot. He's logged around 25,000 hours in flight.
It's a completely different technique, really. We're more of a systems manager in an airliner. You'd have an autopilot to help to fly it for 98% of the time. And this you have to fly all the time. You cannot take your hands off the Sopwith Camel.
For a short aircraft, the Camel has a large and powerful engine. They require a huge amount of skill to fly well.
It's a constant challenge to fly.
For many young pilots during the First World War, there wasn't time for the training needed to master the plane. Nearly as many Sopwith Camel pilots died in non-combat flying accidents as those who were shot down by the enemy. Stu will need to take the flight as seriously as the young pilots would have had to 100 years ago.
If you get it right, it's fantastic. If you get it wrong, it's quite scary. This engine at full power is really too much horsepower for this little aeroplane.
Before he embarks on his challenging flight,
I can look in through this clear panel here to make sure that that cable is on the pulley.
He's carrying out his essential pre-flight checks.
Just a general look to make sure they haven't missed something, because at the end of the day, you know, I'm going to get in it and go flying. So we like to sort of make sure that it's all there.
With such a difficult plane, it's vital that Stu makes sure every last inch is in working order before takeoff.
So I'd come round to the wingtip, make sure the wingtip not scuffed, because basically you have one go at really landing it.
To land a Sopwith Camel, the engine needs to be stopped.
I have a blip switch which completely cuts all the ignition to the cylinders.
And the plane glides to the ground. But while Stu's been shooting the breeze,
the windsocks changed around since I started talking to you. It's favouring landing up the other end of the airfield now.
The wind is now blowing straight across the runway. Stu will need to land down the hill instead.
My only concern today is landing down the hill because we don't normally do it. That's it. I've landed all over this airfield.
If the hill drops away too steeply in front of the gliding plane, there's a chance of running out of land before Stu can get the wheels down.
It's never easy getting in these.
He'll have just one attempt at pulling off the precarious landing.
Need to be a 17-year-old.
Do you want this, Rory?
Never seen it done like that before. Should clip that onto there for now because it's not on yet. Well, this is the third of the three to take off, and they're in 2-minute intervals. Oil's on, Stu. So it'll be a hive of activity for a couple of minutes while these three will go off.
Like the others in his formation, Stu has decided to continue with the flight.
There's number one just started up.
But moments from takeoff, Rory spotted another problem.
Still got fuel coming out. Is everything shut?
Fuel is leaking out of the plane.
Turn the fuel off for a moment.
Yeah. Fuel's off. That's dripping out here.
With plane 2 gone, Stu and the Camel are up next.
I think it's because it's had quite a lot of being open.
We've got 2 psi.
At the final hour, Rory primes the engine by injecting fuel directly into the cylinders to help the engine start.
Off and closed.
Problem solved.
Fuel on.
They're good to go.
Fuel's on.
Set.
Set.
Contact.
Contact.
After some crowd-pleasing manoeuvres, Stu cuts the engine. Using his years of experience and skill as a pilot, Stu pulls off the perfect landing, despite the gradient.
Always a little bit nervous about landing down this hill because we'd never normally land down there. Obviously, you know, you can't land going down a hill because the airplane's gliding and it glides at the same rate. It's quite a steep hill, this one. So taking a bit of a cut on it was absolutely no problem at all. It all worked out well.
Back at Brooklands, some more land-based dreams are on their way to coming true.
It's always been an ambition to experience having a ride in a real Bentley.
John is on his way to meet fellow volunteer Julian. Little does he know, Julian's about to take him for a trip in his 1929 Bentley.
Come around the front, we've got a bit of a surprise for you. You'll see what it is when you get there.
He and his friend Steve wait in suspense by the clubhouse.
As far as I'm aware, he's never been in a vintage car. And to go in a vintage Bentley as your first pre-war car ride, I think it's going to be magic.
Only thing we'll have to do is stop him smiling.
Yeah. Here he is now. Hello, John.
Lovely to see you.
And you, sir. We've got a surprise for you. Would you like to go for a ride in the Bentley?
No way.
Yes way. OK. I think it's going to be a laugh.
Julian will take John around the members' banking. Not a bad outing for John's first ever Bentley ride. They'll be going part of the same route that John's father would have watched as a spectator at Brooklands many moons ago.
Right, John, we're going to tootle around here. Yeah, we'll get round there just about. All right, John.
We're all ready.
You can tell a happy Bentley driver has flies on his teeth.
Yes. Waited years for this.
Right, you ready, John?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Here we go. Way over the top.
Brilliant.
Steep, isn't it? There's a big puddle here. I'll try not to get you wet.
Don't worry.
Now we're coming round onto the banking now.
Right.
And a car like this in 1928 would have been going around here about 10 foot from the top at about 110 miles an hour.
Right.
If you're uncomfortable, just let me know, OK?
I'm fine. I'm perfect.
Here we go. Right, you're in a Bentley on the banking at Brooklands.
We've done it.
You right?
Yeah.
The Bentley's brakes were flawless. The drive has been a triumph.
Well, how was that, John?
Amazing.
It's a privilege for me to own this car, but to share the joy of having it with John is just great. It's quite emotional, actually.
After his years of service to Brooklands, John's lifelong ambition to ride in a Bentley has become a reality.
Very special. Yeah, one of the top days of my life.
Next time, on the finishing straight, trikes bring motor racing back to Brooklands.
Prepare to pedal. And go.
At the Robin Jackson shed, a thoroughbred motorbike proves hard to handle.
Couple of bubbles around the weld here. I'm pretty sure that's where it's leaking from.
And a wannabe bus driver signs up to the School for Skids.
Now, handbrake.